what are the principles of lien?
So lien goes all the way back to Henry Ford, and we'll do this super quick because that's lien, right? We'll do it super quick. But Henry Ford looked at all these people in his factory in 1910, and one person was tightening some wheel nuts and then sewing a seat and then doing something else. And Henry thought, this is super inefficient. People are just wandering everywhere and they're all trained to do everything. What if people specialized? And somebody said, yeah, but the job would be really dull. And Henry said, doesn't matter. The cars will be cheaper and I'll pay them more. And in fact, they can be my first customers. And so he started to organize how manufacturing could work in a more structured way. And then that sat for a bit. And then along came Toyota in the 1950s. And they really elevated the whole thing. They said, let's have some goals around this, some KPIs. Highest quality, lowest cost, shortest lead time. And just pause there. Aren't those awesome for disputes teams, right? Highest quality, lowest cost, shortest lead time. Okay, so how? So Toyota thought that those are great KPIs, great goals for us. How are we going to do it? And they applied some attributes which were, again, very intentional, very specific. And it was 3. Effectiveness. It is the thing that the person is doing relevant? And again, just pause there and put it into a disputes context. You can always find stuff to do, but is it relevant? Do you really understand what the client's goals are? And is this particular task relevant? Why are we doing it? Or why are we having 2 partners do it? Maybe it's peripheral. Maybe an associate could do it and we could have a sidebar. So effectiveness, is the task relevant? That was one. The second one was efficiency. Just find waste in the process. That's now true everywhere in manufacturing. It's also true in kitchens. If you watch that fun Chicago drama about a kitchen, The Bear, they're all running around, or that movie The Founder, same thing, about McDonald's. Process. Let's find an efficient way to work that eliminates waste, and also, particularly for clients, needless drama. And they were quite specific about that. And they came up with the idea of sequencing. We do this before we do that. And you see it in car factories today. One technician will tighten up the wheel nuts, and then a screen above them will go green, and they'll go to the next one, and then there'll be 4 wheel nuts on the tire, on the wheel, and the whole thing will flash green, and the vehicle will move down one. That's sequencing. That person won't come off and start putting in a glove compartment. It's sequencing. But all that has to happen before the leather goes in, because leather's expensive and it will get messy. So you do all that first. What's the last thing you do? You put the engine in. Why? Because that's the most expensive thing. And in a factory, the engines arrive about an hour before they're needed. They're so expensive. They arrive every hour. You get engines arrive. And you don't leave them overnight because the cost of inventory of an engine is just too much. So let's have them arrive during the day. So this whole sequencing and process flow and pull flow meaning one task is finished and it leads to the next one. So one task pulls the next one forward. Incredibly useful for disputes teams once you start to think that way. And the third one was transparency. And there's infographics on this, and there's the 3 pillars and all of this. But essentially, transparency, meaning that everybody can see what everybody's doing. No mistake, no spin. And let's not blindside the client. Let's not have any unpleasant surprises. So if something goes wrong, because it's dynamic, right? Stuff always goes wrong. Let's spot it. Let's be transparent. Let's all see it. It doesn't matter why, and we'll fix it. And by the way, we'll tell the client. So when I do Sky Maps for clients, which is a reporting tool, they might have a portfolio of similar fact cases, and we'll do a sky map, which is 20 cases all up in the air, and it's an instant visual. Of those 20, 17 are on target, meaning they're in line with strategy. We spent the right amount, it's going the right way. 2 are off course, but we've spotted it. We know why they're off course. The expert died, or we lost the judge, or it could be anything. It's litigation, right? It's dynamic. And the third one is under investigation. Something's happened. We don't know why. We're worried about it. It's transparent. Something's gone wrong here. Let's not pretend it didn't happen. Let's not tell the client it didn't happen. Let's not tell ourselves some reassuring narrative that it's probably okay. It might not be okay. So the one that's not just off course, but we don't know why, get some attention on that. And if you can do all 3 of those, the 4th one's consistency. Do all of that consistently. There's no point doing it for part of the assignment and then losing your way, or part of the team and losing your way. It really is a mindset, Emily. Every member of the team, every task, every day, bring the mindset. Let's be efficient, let's be effective, let's be transparent. Let's all of us do all of it consistently. And that's the key to success right there.
Fascinating. Thanks, Alex. I think, there's a lot in there. And my next question was going to be, how do we apply this to disputes teams? But I think, you started to talk about, some of that in terms of the consistency and the efficiency in running work and allocating work. But maybe in terms of efficiency and thinking about sort of driving performance, one of the things that we always use is measuring. So setting KPIs and measuring against performance against them. What kind of KPIs can be used to drive a disputes team towards sort of a lean and efficient model?
So the KPIs, in a macro sense, it's the mindset, it's the feeling of operating in a controlled, efficient structure. But specifically in terms of measurables, because you can't really measure a feeling, in a micro sense, I think the most valuable KPIs are always the ones that matter to the client. Because you can think you're doing a great job, but you don't get the next dispute. So what's the point? And the KPIs that matter to clients are very clear. And we get this from, because we asked the question, we get this from GLL, which is Global Leaders in Law, which is one of the advocates of lean law. Corporate Counsel is another one. These folks are big advocates of applying lean to disputes and even to transactions. And what the client sees KPIs are probably 4 or 5. The main one is outcomes, which again, don't guess. That's the discussion. What does good look like to you? Right, so that the client comes in and says, I'm a farmer, my next door neighbour stole my tractor. All right, tell me about your business. Why does it matter? What does good look like to you? What is an outcome that's going to be good for you here? The client says, well, it's a disgrace, it's a theft, it's my neighbour. That's not an outcome. Let's really focus on what's a really good outcome for you. And you get the client to say, the harvest is in 2 weeks. I need corn out of the field and off to market. Now we understand, okay, that's an outcome. Now we can apply the law to the dispute and we can address an outcome, because running off and getting an injunction and spending a fortune that takes 6 months, that's litigation, but it's not outcome facing, it's not client facing. So the first KPI is, what's the outcome? And you only get to that by having a conversation with the client around what does good look like. The next one is money. And again, it starts with a thing lawyers are slightly hesitant to ask, but I've no idea why. What's your investment appetite? Maybe it comes from the law firm billing pressure. You know, we need the hours, here's your billing target. Maybe it comes from some of the terms that law firms use, like fee earner or timekeeper, instead of terms like problem solver. It's kind of the wrong way around, right? It's all inward facing. And the money issue isn't about what the project will bear. The money issue is around value and investment appetite. And that calls for a conversation with the client and some budgeting. Do some smart budgeting. Think about, you know, what a good plan would look like, that's robust, that we're doing things in the right order, but it's efficient. We're not spending money in the wrong places. We're staying focused on a good outcome. It's going to cost. And have that conversation with the client up front. Have a plan, stick to it, make sure you're monitoring cost burn, and then accountability at the end. Go back to the client at the end and say, there's your KPI. I said we could do this for X. We went over budget by 12%. And the client would say, yeah, I know. You think I didn't notice? Of course I know. Okay, but we told you why. You saw it in real time and you green-lit it that we had to do 2 extra things. We had to, I don't know, go to Brussels to read some documents. That was out of scope, but you asked us to do it, or you told us, whatever it is. The client says, I know, that's the 12%, I've got it. And it's all transparent, which is a big theme, accountable. But yeah, money is always a KPI, unless it's a bet the farm case. But how you get one of those per career, really? They're not bet the farm cases. I mean, normally it's money. And the third KPI is client resources, and it's undervalued. Say to the client, according to my plan, which I'm asking you to support, I'm going to need you, the MD, at several days, several half days. I'm going to need your time. I'm going to need your chief accountant, chief engineer. For the trial, if we get to trial, I'm going to need 3 days prep for your chief engineer. I'm going to need you in court for a week in London or New York, wherever it is. This is the resource commitment I'm asking you for. So don't be shocked when I say to you, look, we've agreed a court date of February 2025. I need you in London for a week. If that's going to be a problem, let's know about it now, because I will need you there. Or there's a mediation and I need you there. It's a resource. I don't want you dialing it in. I want you to show up and be there. I want you to come to the prep meeting. I want you to support the strategy. That's your time. And I get it. I get that you're busy, but it's a resource. So are you committed to this or not? And some clients will say, got it, I'm behind you. And others will say, oh, really? No. But because what will happen is a year on, they'll say, what was this even about? Well, I don't remember why we're suing them. Yeah, we don't do business with them anymore. We've got a new supplier. We've got a new trading partner. We've written it off. Nobody cares. No, I'm absolutely not going to spend a week in London. I'm doing a launch. I'm doing an acquisition. So real transparency and planning around resources. That's your third KPI. We're up to 3. Fourth, time, lawyer time, which is connected to money. How much lawyer time are we going to spend on this? And are we going to spend it smartly? And is it the right lawyer doing the right task? Are we going to have 2 partners sending each other emails and charging the client for it? Are we going to have sidebar meetings with 2 partners, 2 associates? Is there a value to it? If there's a value to it, that's fine. That's 4 lawyer hours. It might be creative work. It might be a problem-solving issue. It might be a crisis thing. It might be a check-in. It might be a planned check-in once every 3 months. Fine. It's budget for it. It's time. But let's just not wander into lost time. Let's just, because it's a KPI. And the last one, I think we're up to 5, Emily, is comfort. The whole client experience. Is it a comfortable journey? You see people walking down the steps of the High Court in the Strand even though they've won, they said, never put me through that again. I'm totally traumatized. I don't get, all right, we won. It's destroyed my life. I never ever want to go through that again. And that's not necessary. It doesn't have to be that way. The journey doesn't have to be full of drama and it's like flying, right? It's like you're paying, you said you're going to New York in a couple of weeks. You're paying British Airways a certain amount of money to get you there. Primarily, right place, New York, for a reasonable fare, using a day of your time in a level of comfort, no drama. You don't want to walk through JFK traumatized going, that was horrible. It's not necessary. That's probably not all of them, but in a micro sense, this probably they're the main KPIs that I'd suggest that disputes teams look at in terms of managing and streamlining.
Thanks, Alex. I think, I mean, some of those really resonate from a funding point of view. So,
yeah.
You know, clients and resources. So we look a lot around the budget and how much is it going to cost and law firm resourcing. But actually, if the client doesn't have the resources to support the case, it's not going to be a good case. And I think the second part is, you know, business strategy. Business strategy kind of moves more quickly sometimes than the litigation does. So you were talking about, you were talking about will you be available in, you know, January 2025 for a 1 day a 1 week trial? But in my experience, you know, executives moves around quite quickly. So 3 to 5 years they're in and then out of a business, and having the right people remain there to be a resource for the litigation is also, you know, from our side quite important. So I think a lot of those points resonated. Maybe now we can go back to looking at the disputes team and maybe talking through, you know, in detail a process that you've seen a disputes team tackle and really sort of streamline within a case or within their business.
Again, you can take streamlining end to end, or you can take it in a micro sense in parts of the challenge that disputes teams face. So an easy place to look at this is documents. How can you streamline documents? And this is the old documents or people. What do I do first? And there are disputes teams who will say, well, let's read everything. Client sent us everything, and we need the fees, and we like fees, and there's lots of us, and we're all timekeepers. Let's all of us read everything. Even though, as we all know, 90% of everything is irrelevant. It's always 90% of it. If best case, 90% of it is irrelevant. So that's one method. Read everything. Actually, it's not just inefficient. It's not allied to effectiveness because you don't really know what you're looking for, and you will miss stuff. You'll only have to read it again once you've found out what the case is about. So there's the read it all method, and then there's, which is no good, and then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is let's go and interview the client. Let's spend 2 days with the client. I don't mind that as much. And we'll interview people. We'll get the key fact holder and interview the key fact holder. Might be slightly better. Key fact holder will say, this is what happened, here's the history, here's this. But at some point, the key fact holder or somebody in the client will say, why am I telling you? Do you not know what this project's about? Why do you guys not know what this case is about? Have you not read anything? Well, no, nobody did us a case summary. We haven't read any of the documents, but we sent you the documents a week ago. Why haven't you read them? Well, we thought we'd come and talk to you first. Well, what's the point of me sending you the documents? You haven't read anything. Well, yeah, but I mean, we thought we'd. So a better process, a leaner process is get all the documents, park them, park the fact holders, and say to somebody at the client, can somebody who knows about this give us a 1 hour overview and point to the 10 key documents. Because if you want us to get from A to B real quick and save you some money and get oriented with this, you're going to have to do some work. Otherwise, it's going to be way more expensive. So somebody give us it doesn't have to be spot on, a reasonably reliable potted history of what this is about, why it matters, what good looks like, why we are where we are, and a guide to the 10 key documents. Might only be one key document, might be a contract. And then we'll go from there. So we won't read anything else just yet. And you work from there outwards. And of course, they've then identify the key fact holder, identify the key documents. Then you probably would look at the key documents, formulate some structured questions, get some sense of what the history is and what a litigation plan could be and a case plan could be. And then you build it. And it looks like more steps. Read it all, interview everyone is 2 steps, but it takes weeks and it's massively inefficient and you don't learn much. Whereas step, lots of little steps, it's way more efficient, and it's a classic lean process. It's structured, and it's streamlined. Do this before you do this. Plan it. How are we going to do it? What should we do first? Rather than just dive in. It's you Google project management, it says plan, execute, monitor, improve. Not complicated. And that's what we're talking about. Don't just dive into execution. Right, I'm interviewing witnesses. I'm reading discovery. No. Plan. Don't do any of that. Plan. Meaning get back from it, sequence it, understand what good looks like, survey it, look at your resources, think about a good process and all of that. Then you get to execution. Yeah, price predictability. Here's another one. Again, a client will send something out to an RFP, and there are firms who will say, what will it bear? I mean, if we like this piece of work, it's I don't know, repapering a subordinated loan note or suing an ICI, who knows? Yeah, we like this. What will it bear? How are we going to price it? What will it bear? Client wants price predictability. What will it bear? It's a completely wrong question. The other end of the spectrum, you get, well, let's undercut it to win it. It's just to undercut everybody else. We know it's probably gone to 3 Silver Circle firms. They're going to charge between X and Y. Let's take 40% off that. Make sure we get this job because we need the work. So you might get the job, but how's that going to end? You're going to go way over budget. You'll get lost. You'll commit the cardinal sin of upsetting the general counsel, who has been to the business and said, I've got a law firm that can do this for X. And then the GC gets a budget for X, gives it to the law firm, and X doesn't get them anywhere. And he thinks I should have gone to a Magic Circle firm or a Silver Circle firm. They're all 3 times the price or 40% dearer, but you know what? They're both wrong. The right way, the better way is budget it properly. Yes, of course, put some contingency in. Not 15 caveats. Have you seen that thing that used to float around in the first days of CCMCs? We had to cross budgets. There's a thing that went around the city of the 20 best caveats. So you'd and people used to cut and paste it. So here's my CCMC, and you give it to my cost budget, and you send it to the client. Client says, I've been to a CCMC, I've got a cost budget for X, but of course there are caveats. And you then send them the 20 law firm favorite caveats. That's not great either, because there's no price predictability in that. So plan it properly. Work out who's going to do. Work out what the tasks are. Are they relevant? What's the order of priority? Who would do each task? Where's the redundancy in this? In other words, is somebody checking if we've got juniors doing first level doc reviews, or we've got technology doing doc reviews? Where's the redundancy? Where's the fallback? Where's the creativity piece? Have we created any space in all of this for creativity and horizon gazing. And then price it properly and say, and then by all means put a contingency and say we might be out by 12 to 15%. And of course, it's event driven, but this should be fairly close. And if it comes out dearer than everybody else and you don't get the job, somebody is going to undercut it and lose. And if it just there's a bit of integrity around this. It is what it is. That's what we can do this for. And we can deliver it at that, and we'll be accountable if we don't. And if somebody wants to undercut us, good luck. You know how it works out for you.
In my role, I sort of see the opposite. I see funder budgets. So I was GC in a manufacturing company before I came here. I know how much litigation costs in the US or in Europe. And now I see different budgets that don't really align with the budgets that I used to see. So
no.
I think, price predictability is really key, but also I think it's transparency and having a budget that's actually realistic, because funding is an expensive source of capital, and if the budget's higher than expectation, that has a direct impact on the client and what they take home. So I think it's sort of just bearing that in mind. So I think we've talked through a sort of a number of different sort of aspects, but if I wanted to start on this process, what would be the first steps that I would need to take? So where do you start with lean?
That's a great question. So the work I did was through decades working with manufacturers. I took the lean methods and modified them for professional practice for law as a service. I was having this conversation actually with the CEO of the Law Society at your dinner a couple of weeks ago, and he said, how do you modify manufacturing processes for a knowledge-based industry? I said, well, and we got into how we did it. And I said, it's not really knowledge-based. The legal knowledge is a relatively small component. These cases aren't really one on knowledge of the law. And he said, no, I know, you're right. And then we got into that a little bit. But the essential premise is right. It needed modifying. And from that, so I take each lean attribute, each lean method, modify it, and I put it into a playbook, which I then called Lean Law because it was a snappy title. And Lean Law is now accessible in a variety of ways. The best thing to do is go and get Lean accredited, because it's a course that's run by American Legal Media. It's an online course, and it's sort of 20 years of missing mentoring, everything you need that you could take 20 years of trial and error to learn. And disputes teams, not even the whole team, just one member of the disputes team, normally an associate, will tend to go and get Lean accredited, and it's relatively cheap. They then get the Lean accreditation, they get the LinkedIn badge that goes with it, and lawyers love to put LinkedIn badges on their social media. They put it on their firm bio, and that person will be the Lean project manager within the disputes team and do everything we've been talking about for the last half an hour. So that's the best place to start. Absent that, another way is I've got a book called A Letter from Your Client, which is the sort of client's prayer, which is again very short, and it's everything your clients want from you to practice successfully.